Mapping the 10th circle. Before I was born with a broken heart, you carried me to Iguazu. Between Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay, eu nasci em Português above the roar of the water. A silence proclaimed, there is more to come. I had promised to be kinder, to practice greater patience. First, the act of falling, and then the semblance of sleep. When you, Wang Feng, had just turned 31, when Artemis was 1 month old, when I was 35 years old, that my sister and I are both personifications of the moon, that our names at least live in the present, that we might emerge or give light only in charcoal hours, after the felling and the ambers, that we might serve as satellites, to bear witness to this supposed state of non-being, to remember that in fact the partial is whole, to remember the process of becoming when already she is, you remain. The difference between waiting and wanting is a generation. The difference between acquiescence and happiness is never. The difference between this moment and the next meal is always. Between home and Nanchang and Taipei and Nashville and Princeton and New Brunswick and Campinas and São Paulo and New York and Elkins Park and East Brunswick and Monroe is not yet a lifetime. But what is clear is invisible. What is weightiest remains intangible. We track most carefully what we cannot see. Opening one's eyes wide is not seeing, but believing. 我不会看字，但是我一直念。我不会给你，所以我跟你讲。我讲不出来，所以我一直想一想。Eu não posso dizer, então eu estive pensando e pensando. 如果我把它翻译成我说的语言。Você foi mãe em outro idioma, se eu cantar para você. 假如我放在你的手里面 if I were to place it in your hands. 我告诉你，假如你不在，我告诉谁 But what is clear is invisible. What is weightiest remains intangible. We track most carefully what we cannot see. Opening one's eye wide is not seeing, but believing. I remember attending a United Nations meeting where an indigenous leader spoke about how official governmental protection of her land was anything but. The government opened up her community's land to oil companies and paramilitary groups. When she went on to talk about intergenerational trauma, the presiding rapporteur interrupted. Excuse me, but your intervention is not smart. I gasped. It took me a while to realize that the rapporteur meant that her testimony was not SMART as an acronym. Specific, measurable, action-oriented, relevant, time-sensitive. Intergenerational traumas are not SMART because they lack a contained shape, because they cannot be addressed by specific individuals we can sue and name as racist, because they are pervasive and have seeped into our dreams as well as our nightmares. State institutions claim that they are too amorphous, that they do not exist. Between fluency and disfluency, between her stuffed baby bear and the musical hippo, between a language and a dialect, an army of tanks, a flock of naval warships, a murder of central banks, a convocation of teachers, an array of bureaucrats, a diasporic murmuration of motherless mothers without mother tongues, a 10th circle, an unflattening, a grasping in the dark recesses of collective knowing I did not know we held, could hold, for what can be.